This episode of Getting the Army Truck Back to Work is going to be mostly about tires. But first, an update of where I'm at with this engine removal and replacement from a 1955 Mack military 6x6 5-ton dump truck that has a gasoline Continental R6602 engine. As you see, I had to remove the front of the truck off here. The bumper can stay, but the radiator, the grill, the radiator, I tried to drain the radiator and I only got a few drops. So when I pulled the lower radiator hose, all hell broke loose. So obviously there's some silt in there, so I'm going to have to take that in and have it flushed and pressure checked out by a professional who knows what they're looking at. No sense in putting back in a radiator, it's no good. Then I had to also pull the fan, pull the carburetor off. The carburetor, I've never rebuilt a carburetor because it's been sitting for about 20 years. And even though the gasoline that was in it probably didn't have any ethanol in it, because I don't think it existed before then in gasoline, it's going to be tarnished and plugged, and it should be checked. It should be rebuilt. It was rebuilt last in 1989. So I bought a radiator repair kit, rebuild kit, and boy, I'm looking at these 20 or so gaskets and maybe a dozen parts in here, and I'm thinking it's probably beyond anything I should probably attack by myself, so I'm taking it into somebody who probably knows more about it than I do. I've never rebuilt a carburetor, so I'm taking it into somebody and going to have that worked on. So the radiator and the carburetor in different locations being serviced. There were about 30, 40 things to disconnect here. It took me at least a whole day to do all this. I'm not a mechanic. And I think I got everything. The truth will be when I start pulling it. I've got to wait for several days for a mechanic to get out here. Somebody else I hired, it actually helped me do the compression test initially on this. And basically one person has to be on the crane and at least one person down here on the ground. So it looks to me like the engine has to come forward maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches and kind of up at the same time. I have to kind of get it up because there are some bolts that I couldn't get. I may have cut them off with a torch, I don't know. There are some bolts that I couldn't knock through these huge rubber grommets. They're just bound in there, and I couldn't hammer them through. But anyway, I think I have to lift it up and pull it out 2 or 3 inches until I can start clearing everything. And there's still a lot of things that are very close by, pipes and such that could be bent if I'm not careful about how it comes out. So, but that's the next step is here. After is basically to pull the engine. Once I get the engine pulled, I've been advised with somebody on my radio show called in and advised, and it's probably excellent advice. Once I get the engine out, before I just go put the new engine in, even though I have help here, I need to have that mechanic, which he should know what he's looking at. I needed to look at the throw-out bearing and the clutch, everything in there that is very easily serviced right now before I go putting in the new engine. So probably I'm pulling the engine out, having it inspected, and then just basically waiting for a while until I actually can get parts for whatever I'm going to need inside the clutch, if I need anything. But I'm assuming I probably will. If anything looks a little out of whack, time to replace it. Then have the mechanic come out and we'll put the engine back in, and take me probably 2 or 3 days to hook everything back up or more. Again, I'm not a mechanic. A crew of a professional mechanic, probably 2 mechanics, could do this in the whole thing in 2 days from start to finish, but it's going to take me at least 2 weeks, right? So that's about it where I'm at with the engine. Now the tires, I can attack, and while I'm waiting for all this other stuff to happen, for the mechanic to get here and such, I can start working on the tires, because that's going to be a big job in itself. After disconnecting that engine, it was like on a Thursday or something, and I'm looking at what's ahead and talking to the guy who's going to help me pull the engine. He can't come out for like 4 or 5 days, and it's the 4th of July weekend, so screw that. I can't wait. I can't hold this project up while I'm waiting for people to do things for me. So let's get on to another part of the project, and let's get tires. So I took an 8-hour round trip to basically what I'd call a military vehicle junkyard. They had about 60 vehicles there, military vehicles, about 100 loose tires, and a lot more on the trucks if you wanted to pull them off the trucks. But so anyway, I drove there and picked up these 10 tires. So let me show you what I got here. This is not this. There's another stack just like this behind us, by the way. The discussion earlier was about super singles on this channel, whether or not I wanted to go with the 10-wheel configuration it is now, which are these tires up here. These are from the 10-wheel configuration, or whether I wanted to go with the 6-wheel configuration, what they call super singles. Super singles is the route I chose. Now, these tires that are on there right now are 11-20s, 20-inch rims. These are the old school way that all the trucks had back then. The new 5-ton trucks, they use these super singles. These are still 20-inch rims, 395s dash whatever slash metric. As you can see, they are bigger. Not only are they wider, but they're also larger diameter. They're about 3 inches larger diameter, not much. So the truck's only going to sit about an inch higher. It's not going to be a big deal. And wider. Now, if you look at this, what would be a surface contact area sitting on the ground? Probably close to 2 square feet sitting on the ground of each tire. It's about the same, or maybe even greater than these old school ones. So in other words, one of these is about equal to 2 of these. Plus the front tires are one of these, and now we're going with this. So we got about twice the contact area in the front. So overall, with the super singles, I am going to get definitely going to get more surface contact area with the ground, and hence probably greater ground traction and off-road performance. Because most of what I'm doing is off-road on this property. Almost all of it, like 95% of what I'm going to do is off-road. Not going to be on the road hardly at all. I don't even have plates or insurance or anything on it, so it's not going to be an on-road vehicle. So this is what I decided to go with. One of the disadvantages I was told with super singles is if you got a flat tire. Now, flat tire on off-road didn't concern me a whole lot because, frankly, okay, I got a flat tire. I got one of these as a spare on the truck, so let's just put one of these on in a pinch until I get this other one fixed. Not a huge deal, I didn't think, for me if I got a flat tire. So that was the biggest disadvantage. And then, of course, at the military vehicle show, those guys, the preservationists, don't like these, of course. If you got an old truck that had these originally, you need these tires, but that's not me. And I also picked up, by the way, a plastic battery box, which this truck had a metal battery box from the same guy I bought it from, and but it's rotted, and this is what the modern 5-tons have, but not, again, not a preservationist thing. So what do we got here as far as price goes? These are 1120s. The best price I could really find on these with wheels, so I wouldn't have to, because these get applied with a split ring rim, and it's very dangerous. They call them the Widowmakers. These are I could get $100 each. $1,000 I could replace all the tires. I thought that was a good deal. So for $1,000 I could replace all 10 tires with rims and everything and be done with it. That was the cheaper way. The super singles were a little bit more expensive. Basically, the best price I found for super singles was $1,500 for 8 of them. Now I only needed 6, but he was selling all 8 of them. $1,500. So that was a really good price too, I thought. And that's also with wheels, because I have to have new wheels if I'm going to go with super singles. There's no question about it. So $1,500 for 8 wheels. Now, I actually paid $1,500 for 6 wheels, where I actually bought them from. But I also saved several $100s in shipping. To ship these, we're looking at over a ton of wheels here and tires. To have these shipped would have cost a bundle. So I found at this military vehicle junkyard pretty close by that I was able to go to pick them up in person, pay the guy cash, and drive away and get them right away. And instead of having to wait for a week and have to go to a shipping depot to pick them up with a fork truck and everything else. For your information, you're probably wondering, well, why do you got these other tires in here? Well, I bought 4 of these because I have a 404 Unimog, another military truck, and it needs new tires also. So while I was there, the Unimog has 10.5 by 20 inch. Doesn't exist in this country. That's a thing in Europe, but not here. My truck came from Belgium. It hasn't had new tires since it came from Belgium about 20 years ago. And so these tires are for my Unimog, hopefully. But these are 11s. Instead of 10.5s, they're 11s. So they're a little bit bigger. I know I have the clearance. I've checked it. But I may not have the clearance fully turning. I don't know that yet. I'm going to have to deal with that later when I get to it. So anyway, that's why I bought these other 4. These were only $50 each, but they have no wheels because I can't use the US wheels on my German truck, right? So anyway, that's a whole separate situation. There may be another video someday about that. I don't know. So this is what I'm going with. Now, these tires here, my next problem is getting them out of the truck. These weigh over 300 pounds each, I'm told. So I'm not lifting them. I may move them around a little bit and roll them, but I'm not lifting them. So I can't use my crane until I drag them out. I probably have to winch them out of the truck. and let them drop to the ground so I can at least move them around. Because what I have to do next, before I even start thinking about putting them on the truck, is to check them out, get them cleaned up, take off the air handling, the air fill, automatic air fill system, fill them with air, let them set a day or two to make sure they're holding air. If one of them does leak, that means I got to disassemble them, replace the O-ring inside, or patch the tire, or whatever, why it's leaking. If it's a bead leak, who knows. These are tubeless tires, by the way, these new ones. But the old ones are tube type tires. So tubeless tires. So I'll have to get them all checked out before I can really put them on the truck. And then my next problem is actually getting the truck jacked up in the position it's in where I can get these tires on there. Okay, let's start with getting the front tires on the truck. Unfortunately, that tree is kind of wrapped around the fender, although it's not under the fender, it's only on top. So, in my estimation, what I think I have to do is I need to slightly pull the truck this way a couple inches, maybe while lifting up at the same time, and hence I have the crane hooked up, wrapped around the axle, so I can do a little lifting and pulling at the same time, and maybe it'll be free from that tree. All I got to do is move the truck over about 3 or 4 inches and keep from damaging either fender. This fender is clear at the moment. The other fender is the one I'm a little more worried about. But I'll cut down the tree if I have to. Let's begin. Okay, barely budged it. Didn't want to overstress anything. I got a lot of pressure on this crane right now. I shut it down. This is definitely not the right way to use a crane. Side pulls are never recommended on any kind of crane, so don't do that at home. But I did get it to move a little bit, as you saw. So I have another idea, but I'm going to have to do it. It's going to take a lot longer. I'm going to have to jack it up a little bit and pull it with alternative means at the same time. In the meantime, I'm going to leave that upward thrust on it. 20-ton jack. Now with the side force, maybe it will slide over a little bit on its own when I get the pressure off this front wheel. We are going to be dragging it a little bit, there's no question. Okay, I can stick my hand under the tire. So we're up a couple inches here. Now, I have to pull it sideways. Don't want to mess with the crane. And what's going to happen is when I pull this jack is going to flip out. There's pretty much no question that if I get it to free. I can't jack up that side necessarily because of the tree. So I'm just trying to drag the whole thing over and let this jack flop over. Hopefully it won't break anything when that happens. First, let's dig a little bit out from the direction I want to pull, just to make sure we don't really have any resistance here. Even though the tire is flat, there's still some dirt in front of it. I think we have very little resistance on this side. 3-ton come along. Outrigger for the crane. I think we have success. Let's let this jack down before it flips. I'm going to try to block the truck up so it doesn't go down much more, so I can jack it up again. There's the tree indent. As you can see, it goes pretty deep. But the fender has absolutely no damage. Got a little problem in that the truck is, every time I set it down, it wants to go this way a bit because the differential is not in the center, so the weight is tipping it. So I'm going to have to start blocking it up under the axle, and then I'll be able to move these jacks under the axle too. Before it was just no clearance, I couldn't get them in there, but now I'm to the point where I can probably get them in the axle and I'm not fighting the springs, because each time I jack it up, the springs are moving an inch or two. So if I get directly under the axle with these jacks, it should go up quicker, but I still got several more lifts to go. Might be high enough. Not sure. One side certainly looks like it is. I don't think I'm going to be able to put the tires on today anyway. I got a little problem with lug nuts coming up, I think. I should have broke the lug nuts free before I jacked it up. Because even though it's a 6-wheel drive and it's in gear, we get this. So, I've already been working on this. Shove a bar in here. Keep the wheel from turning. And I got a special tool. 1.5 inch lug nuts. This is a special tool I bought at Finley Show. None of them have been easy yet. Let's see if this one's going to be any easier. That one was easier. Didn't have to jump up and down much. Try another one. I'm on a roll here. Try this one. Hang on to the mirror here. I think it broke free before the wheel moved. Only 100 of these to do. Wow. I'm going to end up on my ass. Got it. And I have been spraying this with penetrating oil for weeks in preparation for this. I wonder if anybody's ever broke one of these tools. 10 down, 90 to go. Well, another problem now. I'm going to have to move this truck over probably about another 6 inches or more. I'm not very far from getting this one off, but the new one's twice as wide, so I'm going to have to move the truck over that way a lot somehow while it's in the air. This is going to be fun. I've actually bent the tool a little bit on this one. So now let me unbend it by going the other way. So yeah, I don't know about breaking it, but I certainly bent it. Okay, maybe you straightened out, maybe not. I don't know. But gonna have to resort to other means. That's nap gas. A little more heat than propane. If I have to, I'll have to get acetylene torch. See if I can do it by hand. Nope. Nope. There, she moved a little bit. still tough. But it's moving. Unbelievable. Stand on it again. Torch did the trick, but it's still rough. Bending the tool again. There. Still bending the tool. Will I have to cut it off completely with the torch? Guess we'll heat up some more. What kind of impact wrench would you need for this? I don't have a compressor big enough, certainly, and I don't have a impact with that much gumption, I don't think. And I don't have any impact sockets, 1.5 inch drive, or 1.5 inch sockets. End up on my butt. Broke the stud off. That's one way to do it. Okay, fast forward a couple days later. After getting that lug to actually turn a little bit before it actually broke, got me curious. Wonder if I could have possibly been turning it the wrong way. Well, I consulted YouTube University and found a video that showed indeed those are left-handed threads on that side of the truck. Some of you may have known that and were screaming that in the video, but I couldn't hear you. So, live and learn, and if I would have looked at the lugs, if you look, there's an L printed on it. If I would have seen that, noticed it, I could have figured it out. But anyway, I have to replace all the studs on this anyway because my new wheels are a good 3/4 inch thicker. So I have to get longer studs anyway. But now I also have to buy a new nut because I'm not going to spend the trouble to easy out that thing and get it out of there. So anyway, I got the truck jacked up about 1 foot. I do have some blocks and some wood underneath that put a little bit of weight on that tire. So hopefully it won't turn. But I may have to put more weight on it because I don't like it being this high up in the air. I've got, used to use 1 step to get up there. Now I've got a 4-step ladder to get up there. Boy. So maybe at the same time, I'm trying to loosen these now by tightening them essentially. And hopefully I can bend my wrench back so that I can straighten out my wrench. We'll see how hard this goes. I think these wheels weigh about 1/4 of what the other ones weigh. The fender won't let me push it all the way. I'm going to have to block it up, then release the crane, and do it that way. Okay, now I've run into a major problem. As you saw, depending on how I edited it, I struggled with this to get this thing on there. Just couldn't get it on. Everything seemed to clear. Seemed to have everything lined up perfectly. All the studs were plainly visible, equal spacing all around this dust cap for the bearings and the seals. So everything seemed to be centered perfectly, but I still need to go in about 1.5 inches. So I'm thinking, what in the hell is holding it up? So I come over here on the other side and see what I have here. Well, I can't fit this hacksaw blade in this crack. This is the actual brake hub, around the brake hub, and this is the wheel. And it's tight. So that's what's holding me up. They literally do not fit. Now coming over here on the other side to see my existing steel wheels, which I still have this wheel on there. Here you see the gap. I can easily fit the hacksaw blade in there. There's about a 1/4 inch gap almost in there. It's not tight. This is the wheel, and that's that guard for the brake hub. Now I also checked the diameter of the wheels. These are the super singles, the aluminum wheels. This is the ones I took off the truck. I cut this board to fit perfectly in here because I don't really have the proper tool to get a perfect micrometer type of reading. So I got it fitting tightly. And I go over here and we got about a 1/4 inch gap, maybe up to 3/8 inch gap. So obviously the aluminum wheels are just smaller diameter inside here enough, thicker, that I can't get it on my truck. The thickness of these wheels, at least at this point, is about 1 1/8 inches thick. And that's why I needed longer studs. Steel wheels, here we've only really got about less than 1/2 inch, probably about 3/8 of an inch. So I talked to the guy who sold them to me, asking him questions, and he didn't remember that problem existing. But he said basically I'd either have to turn down, grind off part of that outside of that guard in order to get these wheels on there, or put these tires on these old wheels, but that doesn't really work because I measured them. These are about 14 inches wide, the aluminum ones, whereas steel ones are about 10 inches wide, plus the fact they have the run flats in there. The run flats would have to come out, and then the tire sidewalls will be inward, so that's not really going to work either. Or I can go back to the 10 tire configuration with this type of rubber, the old 1120s. I do like the idea of the singles, but it's causing a big problem now, as you can see. Now I haven't seen this issue before, and he now recalled problems that a buddy of his had doing this with that type of system. Now the other option is, which I'm considering also, is going back there. It's an 8-hour round trip, and exchanging these aluminum wheels for steel wheels, which he has. The steel wheels, being thinner, might have the extra clearance, but I probably would have to confirm that before I made that trip. Because I don't know if the super single wheels, the inside diameter of the steel ones, they should be, because frankly, the tire itself is 20 inches regardless. So if you have a thinner steel wall there, probably I'm going to have the clearance. So the fact that these are aluminum wheels is probably my problem. I don't know where to go from here. Plus, when I use these on the back, I won't have that issue in the back because essentially these get flipped around to where this is the side that's going to be facing the outside of the truck. The other issue with these aluminum wheels is this chamfer here. See how it's got a recessed part? That's for the lug nut to fit in there, because the lug nut also has that chamfer, so that it fits in there snugly and holds the wheel from moving. But being this wheel will be flipped around, on the back side, there's no chamfer whatsoever, so I'd have to put a chamfer in there. It would go on, but to do this right, you'd really need to put a chamfer there. But the steel wheels already have a chamfer on both sides. They have a chamfer on the back side and a chamfer on the front side, depending which way it is, because they're meant to be mounted both ways. So what to do? As he said over on the phone, pick your poison. Find the best of the worst options and use that one that's going to cost you less money or give you less grief. Well, the less grief probably would be to put on the 10-wheel configuration back on here, but that would still involve a trip, an 8-hour trip to go exchange these aluminum ones for the old style steel ones, 10 of them. I'd get money back too, it'd be cheaper. Other option is to exchange these aluminum wheels for the steel wheels if they have the clearance that I need. That would still involve, of course, a trip, an 8-hour trip, and $200 in fuel. And getting these on and off in my truck is not even hardly an option anymore. I have to stack them 3 high. I'm going to have to haul them on a trailer this time. There's just no way I'm going to be able to load them. And then another option is to grind down my brake hubs, the guards on the brake hubs, to get them to fit, the aluminum ones, and chamfer the back sides of the wheels for the back 4, which I'd have to take those parts into a machine shop to do. So the saga, I guess, will continue. This video is probably already going to be too long. Might as well end it now, and you'll have to tune into a future video to see what I ended up doing. But in the meantime, I got this truck up in the air. It's not really safe like it is to pull the engine, which I still have to do. The engine's disconnected but hasn't been pulled yet. But I'm going to have to put it down on blocks or something to get it very stable so I can get this engine out of here if I get help in the meantime. No matter which way I'm looking at a lot of extra time and energy, and it's not fun no matter which way it's going to end up. Thanks for watching.